Dario here, reporting for you live on the West Island News. Today we are talking travel. I'm here with Anthony, a travel advisor. But first I want to let you know where we are. So we are in Dorval, in a park that is been made specifically for watching planes. So right behind us we are at the Trudeau Airport. You may see planes come in and out, and it's really quite cool. It gives you a nice view and a good summer activity if you're on vacation this week. If you want to come and check it out, I did put the address in the description above this video. Hello Anthony, thanks for joining us today.
Hey, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So travel, of course, things have changed with the COVID-19 pandemic. People are wondering what the situation is like now. So first, recently, the United States announced that the border would be opening to Canadians, the land border, the American border, would be opening. So Americans would be allowed to travel into Canada starting on August 9. What do you think of that decision?
Well, I think it's great news for the tourism industry here. There's a lot of people and companies and stakeholders, whether it's hotels, restaurants, shops, that make their business along the border. And it's great. There's a lot of family that travels across over too. So it's going to be good for have loved ones reunited, and for the local economies there, the restaurants, the bars, the shops, the tourism attractions that have been obviously suffering these past years. So that's great news. It's a great you want to call it first or second step, depending on where you start counting. But it is great news for the tourism industry on both sides of the border.
And people that have decided that they want to start traveling, making this decision, did they have hesitation, or it was like, let's go and let's get out of Montreal?
It's a great question. Depends on the person, right? This whole travel thing is very personal to each person. Your own personal health situation, your own risk assessment. Some travel is essential. Some people had to get out no matter what the price was to reunite with family. Some people needed to do so for work. Other people were just fed up and whatnot and just needed to get away. Depending on when they did that or how they did that, essentially, there was a way. There was a way to do so safely. I know there was a lot of bad press at first, let's say around the Christmas time or beforehand, when things were a little unclear. There was loopholes, and then there was a lot of travel shaming, depending on what that was. And as we move forward in time, when the government made more clear announcements and basically took a very firm stance and say, listen, no is no, and then the major airlines like Air Canada and Sunwing and Transat stopped traveling down to the south, basically up until coming shortly. It made the stance very firm. And then when the vaccination news rolled out and vaccination rates increased, well, naturally, everybody was expecting that rules would change, and they did. And so a lot of people did get ahead of themselves then, those who knew or they'd be fully vaccinated, or those who just knew that, the rules would have been loosened up just enough for them to be able to get over there and do what they had to do. So how would I say that basically demand has been increasing, albeit not everybody is confirming on those trips. The demand is there. People are curious, people are anxious, and in the last couple of weeks or so, and even before the government made the announcement that Canadians, fully vaccinated Canadians, would no longer have to quarantine upon arrival here in Canada, well then the floodgates started opening for those things. A lot of it is for some of them end of the summer travel to Europe and other destinations down south. We're not really going much further than that, as service hasn't really picked up globally across the world, and not every country is recovering in the same way. I mean, some places far out in Asia and other things like that, vaccination inequity, things are just a little slower, but things are starting to get there. And there's a lot of traction for the winter holidays and beyond, as people, with the announcements that we see now, and if provided the government sticks by them and sticks with them, then all reason to believe that people can book trips comfortably, albeit with some restrictions depending on the case, to book their travels and feel confident and looks forward to doing something.
And people who have made those decisions to travel, what challenges have they been facing, or you as a travel advisor getting these trips ready and making all the necessary bookings?
So there's a few things. One, the whole industry is recovering, and what I mean by that is, yes, we're on the sales and on the advisor side, but we work with suppliers and airlines and hotels. Those companies have also made massive layoffs and have hired or rehired at different paces and different rates. So transactions that would normally take very quick to do or that were very seamless take a bit of time, especially when there's special requests, especially when there's multiple components to it. We're dealing with pre-planning trips and essentially conditions that we know might change. So whatever I explain to somebody today may change if they decide to travel later. So a lot of the booking windows have been dramatically shortened for the time being for immediate trips, whereas a lot of the trips that are going to be further down, I mean, it's all good now to know what's going on, but essentially things can change at any time. So there's been cancellations, route changes, flights that have been rerouted or just canceled outright. For example, if you're planning now to travel in December, or if you were planning in January to travel this fall, chances are your flight might have changed. So it's a lot of working and reworking and redoing on top of the slow pace of response for some of our suppliers. In a normal circumstance, I'd be able to do everything in a computer with our systems. But now, due to the large number of changes and everybody's impression that COVID will not be there forever, some of our computer systems don't have functionality to make the changes that we'd like to do. And therefore, we have to go through email or phone lines, and it just takes longer. So I've been telling everybody, to preach patience. We're getting there. It's not like anybody's sitting there or wasting the time. We're all trying to get back to everybody as fast as we can. And well, it's worth the wait when it comes down to it, because at the end of the day, it's not just finding the destination for your vacation. Then there's the loopholes that you have to go through, like the testing, knowing which countries require which test, the delays of testing, vaccination proof or not. Do you have to quarantine there? What happens when I come home? If I'm vaccinated, if I'm not vaccinated? Can I travel with children? Do they have the same restrictions? So a lot of those things come up, especially when you deal with family vacations and things of that nature, and people just trying to coordinate their own trips, knowing that every country that you enter has their own restrictions that you have to abide by.
Definitely. And one of the major factors I think people consider when traveling is the prices. What are we looking at now, considering the prices of flights, hotels, resorts? Are they high or are they low?
That's a great question, and like it was pre-pandemic, seasonality will determine that. For example, holiday vacations will always cost you more than a fall vacation because demand is that high and the time of year, so that's going to definitely influence it. The other thing we have to contend with is service levels are not what they were at pre-pandemic. For example, if you were going to go down south, on any given day you had anywhere between 4 to 7 flights to Cancun a day. Now you're lucky if we get 4 to 5 of them a week, spread out, not with the same airlines. And so therefore, it's not just the hotel availability that you're dealing with. These airlines are going to start getting filled up quite quickly as the service is much limited. So a lot of people who are trying to get ahead of themselves and who have done so, there may not be the last minute deals that we once seen. And then obviously prices reflect demand. So as soon as those planes start filling up, those prices are starting going up, especially for peak seasons like the holidays, knowing that service is a little limited. That's what we see. And then in certain areas too. For example, the European Union, who just so recently lifted most of the conditions for Canadians for the most part of the European Union countries. People who were fully vaccinated who wanted to get on board, for example, end of July, end of August travel, we've seen a huge increase in flight prices just because of exactly that, the demand. Same situation there. You used to be able to get to Rome or Athens or Barcelona once a day. Now we're lucky if we can get there direct once a week or twice a week. So not only does the travel take longer, it might be a bit more expensive because of that. And at the same time, I mean, listen, there's no secret. These airlines and these companies have been struggling for a year and they're going after to make their money back. But at the same time to that, people who haven't spent on their travel budgets like they normally would in years past, who didn't take the vacation last year, have more to spend too on that first trip. I can't stand here and tell you what's going to happen beyond that. I think when things regulate a bit, we will see an average increase in prices at the bare minimum. But I mean, that's like everything else. Inflation across all things, restaurants, groceries, travel's no exception. And then the added component to that is the testing that we have to do. So let's, for example, your normal down south vacation that would cost you $1,500 a person. Well, now you have to get tested before going, depending on the country, and you'll have to test to come back, vaccinated or not. So those tests aren't cheap, but they are essential and necessary. So I advise travelers to factor that into their budget as well, because an extra $300 a person on testing is something at the end of the day. So definitely something they have to factor as well.
And if you did not know, a lot of borders and airports will not accept government-provided tests. So you do have to go out and pay for that test yourself if it is for travel purposes. So that does add a cost.
Yes, there's the two popular tests being the antigen, the rapid test, and then the PCR test, which is a bit more pricier, which the results take a little longer. I'd say 90% of the countries require that test. Some countries will require an antigen test, depending on where you're traveling from. Example, countries in the European Union who travel amongst themselves won't necessarily have to do a PCR test. They can do an antigen test. But to come back to Canada, for example, you absolutely have to do your PCR test, vaccinated or not, within 72 hours before arriving here. And that has a cost to it. And it varies whether you're in the States, whether you're in Mexico, whether you're in Europe. So that's a good point as well. It's on your cost and you'd have to figure it out.
Thank you very much for speaking with us today. If you still have more questions, or maybe you're ready to go out there and travel and you want Anthony's help, how can people connect with you?
You can follow me on Facebook right now. My name is Anthony La Para Santori. The company is World Experiences by La Para. The website is currently under construction, as we took the last year to rebrand, restructure, reorganize, and we're going to go live with our new marketing plan and our new launches for our social medias, the new website, and everything will be there on my page, and that should be launched within the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Thank you very much. Again, we're in Jacques-de-Lesseps Park in Dorval. I put the address for you above this video so you can come check out. It really gives a good view of the planes here at the Montreal airport. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, West Island, and I'll see you next time. Dario reporting live for you on the West Island News.